Injuries are part of the sport, but I'm going to say this. Around 50 to 70% of the worst injuries I see in this sport are entirely avoidable. Okay? We're all mature enough to understand that there's some injuries that are unavoidable. There's things that are just going to happen. It's part of doing jiu-jitsu. It's part of your education. But there's also some injuries, more than a few, that you see where there was just no need for it to happen. And sadly, some of these are often the worst kinds of injuries. Over the years, I've observed there are a small subset of moves or movements which contribute about 80 to 90% of the catastrophic avoidable injuries you see in a gym at any given time. Okay? Let's quickly run through these and why I ban them in the academy so that you guys can, if you do get injured, then it's an unavoidable mistake rather than something that didn't need to happen. Let's have two athletes in the standing position. Okay, first things first, jumping guard. This is a big no-no. There's always a danger when one guy goes to physically jump to guard. You are throwing body weight onto your opponent in an uncontrolled fashion. When it's done like this, it all looks safe. Okay, one guy's stationary, the other guy jumps in, and it seems pretty safe, right? You just jump on him, and how dangerous could that be? You see this all the time, don't you? The problem starts when you go in live, and you've got two people moving. You've got a slippery floor, and you've got people changing angle as they get into a competitive situation. And that's when the horror stories start. Okay? You'll see people jump, and they jump where the guy was. The guy moves, and where they land is completely different. It's usually right on top of an extended leg or into an ankle in directions that are just absolutely appalling. Okay? These are injuries that make any heel hook really a fucking joke. Okay? These are potentially career-ending injuries. So you're welcome to pull guard in my classes, but you can't jump guard. Okay? So demonstrate jumping. No, not in class. Okay? If you want to go to guard, you have to sit with your buttocks to the floor. This is 100% safe. Okay, but no issues with this. As long as your buttocks go to the mat, you're fine. But if your buttocks and hips go to your opponent's body, that's a problem, because now you can land on someone and badly hurt them. Okay? Our general rule with safety is this. The #1 cause of catastrophic injury in the sport of jiu-jitsu is uncontrolled falling body weight. That's so important, I'm going to say that again. 90% of the worst injuries in this sport come from falling body weight. In particular, uncontrolled falling body weight. It's not the heel hooks that hurt you. It's not the arm bars. It's people landing on you in ways where you get fucked up. That's what does you in. Okay? So jumping on people is out. So too with flying submissions. Okay? Say for example, Kani Basama. Okay? This is unacceptable because you are jumping onto your opponent's body. Okay? You can still hit leg locks. For example, you can slide into Ashigarami. You started standing, you went like, this is 100% safe because you went onto the floor instead of onto your opponent. So the general rule of thumb is you cannot jump onto your training partner. So no flying arm bars, no flying triangles, but you can fall to the ground and then go directly to submission holds. Okay? The second biggest culprit is poorly performed Tani Atoshis. Okay? When we lock a body lock on a training partner and he's got a whizzer in here, so often you see people go to perform a Tani Atoshi takedown by sitting down to their buttocks and reaching for the far foot and trying to trip them backwards to show you Tani Atoshi. And done like this, it looks okay. Okay? Then you see people in the gym perform it clumsily and spread your base, Frankie, and you see what happens? He's going to sit on his knee and he's going to break the knee inwards. The knee doesn't bend that way. You get a human being sitting on top of your leg. I've seen 95-pound women break 240-pound men's knees with this. Okay? So our rule of thumb is you cannot lock the body and sit to your ass. This has an unacceptably high rate of injury, and the injuries from here are fucking bad. Why? Because typically the guy's leg gets caught underneath and it can't move. And so you just get a human being sit on the outside of your knee and the direction is not supposed to go, and you see terribly broken legs. Okay? So what's the safe way to do it? Here's the rule of thumb for Tani Atoshi. If you are behind your opponent and your head is on his back, now it's safe. There's no way you can hurt the guy. So if your head is on his back, you can hit Tani Atoshi, and there's literally no way you can hurt your opponent. You can't land on his leg. It's physically impossible. So this is safe. But if your head is in front of your opponent, usually because he has a whizzer, you must go to your knee. You must trip with Kosaragake to your knee. This is 100% safe and very effective. You cannot sit to your buttocks. Okay? If you sit to the buttocks, there's an unacceptably high risk of sitting onto your training partner's knee and breaking the knee inwards. Okay? So Tani Atoshi, the rule is simple. If your ear is on his back, no problem, do it. Okay, if your ear is in front of his chest, you must hook and go to your knees, not to your ass. If you're in doubt, you're not sure what I mean by this, just don't do the move. There's other takedowns you can do. Okay. The other, probably the third most common reason why we see bad injuries in the gym has to do with a situation where Oliver, Andrew, you have two guys working out here on the ground, and these guys here are standing, and Frankie does a takedown and runs his opponent right into another group of people. Okay, we see this all the time. Understand, guys, we have around 3,000 square feet of mat space, and we often have anywhere from 80 to 100 students on the mats. Okay, you have to take into account where you are on the mat relative to your training partner. You cannot just every day, guys, you tie up down on the floor. If you roll into your training partners, you go driving into your training partners. Don't just go into their space and then look at them like they're a pair of assholes for being in your space. You're the asshole. Okay? You went into their space. So you stop and you move back where you came from. Don't just roll into people with no concern for their training space and then look at them like they're fucking wrong. Okay? But the rule of thumb is simple. If you go into their space, you're the fucking invader, so you move the fuck out. Okay? If there's any dispute, the one with the higher rank wins. Okay? So if you don't know who rolled into who because you both rolled at the same time and he's a black belt and you're a purple belt, you move away. Okay? It's a simple tiebreaker. It's not, it has nothing to do with high ranking, it's just a way to break a tie. Okay? And if we can avoid these three things, we're going to avoid a lot of unnecessary injuries. Understand always that the number one cause of injury is falling body weight. So anytime you pick people up, it's your responsibility to put them down safely. Okay, so if we have a mat return and you lift the guy off the floor, the lifter is responsible for the safety of the other guy. Don't drop people on their heads, don't spike people on their necks, things like this. You put them down with some safety in mind. And if you do simple things like this, you can avoid the worst injuries, and most importantly, limit yourself to unavoidable injuries. We all understand those. You do jiu-jitsu long enough, you're going to get injured. Just the way it is. Okay? But it's sad when people get injured by things that never needed to happen. Those are the ones which are kind of sad. Okay? So we can avoid those. It's a big, big step.